Welcome back, everybody. I'm so excited that you're here to join us on Seasons of Motherhood. I have a very special guest today, somebody I have known for a very, very long time. I'd like you to welcome Leslie Brushett. So hi, Leslie. Welcome to Seasons of Motherhood.
Hi, Sandy. So good to see you today.
Yes, it's awesome. Thank you for joining in from way up north. I'm glad we both have internet connection. Can be tricky, but we're here. So
I see it's a
glad
nice
you're here.
sunny day for you, sunny day for me.
It is. It's beautiful. I love it. It's a good day to be on a podcast. So I'm very excited to get into our conversation today about your journey of how you got to where you are today. And we're going to dive into kind of a little bit of your history and your family and Muskoka Woods. I'm really excited because we know, both of us know how important Muskoka Woods has been in our spiritual journey and our families. It just doesn't seem to end in the generations. Faithfully, God is so faithful because he keeps the generations going through Muskoka Woods. And I wanted to highlight that today too. So let me just introduce Leslie today so everybody has a bit of an understanding of who you are. So Leslie, you're the Director of Human Resources at Muskoka Woods. You have been a part of the community since you were 12 years old. I can't wait to talk about that. You attended as a guest, joined summer staff at 17, have been working there pretty much since 95. You have a passion for leadership, teamwork, creating space for younger staff to discover their unique skills and ability. You have a degree in psychology from the University of Western Ontario, Human Resource Certificate, Seneca College, graduate of the Aero Leadership Program, which is another thing I'd love to talk more about. You've married to Scott. You have 3 lovely children, which you are slowly getting to the empty nester phase, just slowly getting there. It's a big change. So you are just incredible as a friend. And I have known you since, I couldn't even remember the date, like way back, I guess 1990. But you would have met Duncan before that, though, for sure.
Yeah, I think 89, I think, is when I met Duncan. So
yeah. So the one thing about camp is that, and I know this isn't the case for everybody, however, it was for us, and I'm very thankful. We still have friends from the 80s and the 90s. And honestly, it's one of the biggest blessings in our life as a family and as a couple. So we're so thankful for you and Scott. We're just so thankful.
I know it is interesting because I think about the kids that work at camp right now, which I know we'll talk about, but the age that they're at, and that like these could be their lifelong friends, just like you are, all my lifelong friends are from when like 18 to 22, like in those years at camp. And and I tell people that all the time because I think it's so cool.
Yeah, it is. It's something to celebrate because it's a legacy that Muskoka Woods and camp in general can offer, not necessarily in every, like I said, in every situation, but it's something that we are so thankful for, and we're constantly reminding ourselves of the gift of the friends that we have. So anybody out there thinking about camp, you need to listen today because there's a lot going on at Muskoka Woods you don't want to miss. So let's dive right in. Let's look back at you and your early beginnings and kind of your journey with family and with faith.
Yeah, so to be honest, when I think back about kind of life, I think it was fairly uneventful in a lot of ways, but I grew up in Windsor, Ontario, and lived there really till I was 19, and then I went away to school and actually haven't really moved back home since then. But I grew up in a Christian family, and so I have a good heritage of Christian faith. Like my parents are Christians, my sisters are Christians, my grandparents are Christians, and so I feel really blessed by that, and just kind of being able to have that as my heritage and something to lean into for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's an incredible heritage. We love your family.
Excuse me, I'm so sorry. Even when I was thinking back on my life and even kind of coming to this, I'm like, what's even like all that interesting to talk about, to be honest?
There's a lot, trust me.
Yeah, but there are a few things that I know for sure were very defining moments for me, and I think can be really defining for lots of people when you look back on just kind of the everyday things of our lives and how God uses those to bring us to where we are, today. A couple like significant things I think for me I'm a middle child. I have two sisters, one older, one younger. My older sister was very outgoing, and attracted a lot of attention. And then my younger sister is actually 6 years younger than me. So it was definitely like more the baby of the family. And so I think that in itself caused some independence, that a lot of times middle children have to kind of fend for themselves. And get lost a little bit. I wouldn't say that I really ever felt lost in the family, but definitely there was a little bit more independence there. I never felt afraid to try new things. My parents, were definitely encouragers of us to try new things. But I also think that there was a place of, wanting to kind of get outside of that and figure out who I was, outside of being, like this middle child. I also think having sisters, only sisters, kind of decreased the gender roles in our family, because not only did I have to do everything on inside the house, but I also had to shovel the driveway and cut the grass and help to build the deck and everything like that. So I think that too has like been super interesting, because to me, like, there's nothing I can't do,
You have all these skill sets.
Yeah.
Super talented.
I can do that. My dad was also very much, as soon as we got like our driver's license, I was fortunate enough to have a car. And, back then we didn't have GPS, so we had to figure everything out, in our maps. But my dad was like,
how did we do it, Leslie? How did we do it? I don't know.
But I was like, my dad would always be, just look at your map, Leslie, look at your map and figure it out. And I think that really instilled confidence, and that he thought I was smart enough to figure it out. And so why wouldn't I be smart enough to figure it out myself, right? I think that's like pretty, like forming for sure, and just independence and confidence, which I try and do with my own kids. I've tried to teach them how to use a map,
Not just our phone.
Yeah, comes out. And even right now, actually, like, I have a daughter that is traveling in the UK right now. She's 18 and she's over there with her friends. And I'm like, well, I don't know, you're just going to have to figure it out. And she actually, her friend said that she was the best one with navigating public transit, which is hysterical, because we live in Muskoka where there's no public transit. No public transit.
Way to go, girl.
I know. And she figured it out. So I thought that was great. And then my middle son is actually in New Zealand for a year. And again, he's living out of a van and traveling around. And he didn't have much of a plan when he went. But you know what? I was like, he's smart and he can figure it out. And so he's over there for a year, wandering around. Yeah. Growing in confidence.
You can see how it trickled down from how your family raised you to be strong and to be independent, and to the leadership skills that you have that are so incredible. It's trickling into your kids. You can see that. You can see that.
Yeah. And my older son had lived in BC for a year, also traveled to New Zealand. And so, I'm super proud of them. And that how my parents raised me definitely encouraged me to, help my kids become independent too. Because that's our goal, even though we don't like it sometimes.
No, I know. I was reading something the other day about how somebody was almost like lamenting the fact that their kids were going off to school or they were traveling, and they're like, nobody told me about this. Nobody prepared me for the emotion of all of a sudden you work your entire life and they're 18, 19, 20, and then they're gone. Like, that's what we're supposed to do. We're called to do that. We got to give them wings. We got to give them the skills to go, because that's what our parents did for us. So we're just following through. We were keeping it going. Yeah.
What I think is interesting too, though, like in my family always valued having dinner together. So we always went on family vacations together. And so my dad always prioritized. I remember him saying, even if we had the money, or if we didn't have the money, he would figure it out, because he wanted to just prioritize quality family time together. So I think that was really important, which I try and do as well. And family dinner, like, I know that gets talked about a lot, but in our family growing up, we all had cars, we were all going everywhere. But no joke, we would be like, okay, what are we doing for dinner tonight? And we would like all descend upon Swiss Chalet with like 4 cars for 5 people.
Perfect.
we would be there, right? We
I
would be
love it.
there, we would meet,
Yeah.
and we would always make sure that we were together for family dinner. And so I think that was definitely something, as well as my family cottage. Honestly, I think that having our family cottage was so significant in my life. And we were fortunate enough to have a family cottage. I know not everybody can do that, but it was definitely a place where we got away from kind of regular stuff. We went
Right.
there for the whole cottage. It was time for a family.
Yeah.
There was adventure, and there was swimming and trying new things,
Yeah.
which I think was really cool. But I honestly think that one of the biggest things for my family cottage was I grew up in a fairly like strict Brethren assembly Bible chapel, and and a lot of the people there wouldn't go anywhere because they had to be at church on Sunday.
Right.
So I'm not saying that that's not a good commitment, because it's a good commitment. We have to be committed to, like a church family. I think that's super.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But being away in the summer actually kind of like delegalized Christianity for me, and that I didn't have to be. Yeah, I didn't have to be at church in order to be a Christian, that I could actually experience Jesus in a different way, and through family, through God's creation, and even through like ministry to the other neighbors that we had around us. So I think that was like a really important time in my life, which also kind of leads into my life at Muskoka Woods as well.
Yeah. So how did you, so I know that your cottage, which we have been able to visit that place. It's just such a wonderful coming together, and we have many memories of being there. So we're very thankful, and I can see why you're so thankful for it. So because it is so close to the camp, but tell us how you actually got to the camp and how your parents found out about it, because usually that's what happens. Our parents are the ones who are like, oh, I heard about this place. Maybe we should look into it for our kids. Is that kind of how that happened for you?
Yes. So my dad grew up going to a different camp. And so we went to a different camp for 2 summers, my older sister and I. But we always used to, my family cottage is literally 5 minutes down the road from Muskoka Woods. So when it was Glen Rocks, before it became Muskoka Woods, we would actually come to church here every once in a while, like in the summertime. And so we kind of knew of the property. And then when it was purchased by like John Body, then we started driving by and we're like, something different is going on there. And we would see kids playing soccer and whatever. And
kind of good.
Yeah. And so then my dad kind of investigated, and he was like, oh, it's a summer camp now, and they have a water ski program. So that is totally why then we were like, okay, we're going to Muskoka Woods. So the first summer that Muskoka Woods ran was 1980. And my first summer as a guest here, we call them guests, was when I was 12 years old. And so I started coming here when I was 12. And funny enough, I actually talked to my water ski instructor the other day from when I was 12 years old.
What?
I'm not joking.
That is so cool. You know what though? I find that even with the whole social media burst over the past, like say 15, 20 years, it's actually brought alumni together in a really unique way, because you start connecting with people and that we never would have been able to see again. So it's actually been kind of neat. So it doesn't surprise me actually that you were able to connect to somebody from that long ago.
Yeah. So it was pretty funny. So we started coming here, my sister and I, and my older sister, and then my younger sister started when she was about 7 or 8, I think.
Yeah,
and
like
then
early.
Yeah. So I started when I was 12. She was like 7 or 8 when she started. But she went right through as well to being on staff for like 5 summers. So it's definitely a big part of our family, and the great connection between having friends from camp over to the cottage. And so my family just loves Muskoka Woods as well. My parents, so.
Yeah. Interesting. I was just thinking about the fact that here we are talking all about Muskoka Woods, but there could be somebody watching today that literally this is the first time they're hearing about it. Maybe share a little bit about, before we get into kind of your role and what you're doing today, actually the different roles that you've had over the years. That would be great to go back through. But what is the vision of Muskoka Woods, and how would somebody learn about it, and why would somebody want to either work there? I mean, I can answer all these questions too, because I did work there just for a little bit and have some good connections. But I'd love to hear your perspective on Muskoka Woods and what it means.
So, Muskoka Woods is located in Muskoka, near Rosso, Ontario, on the north end of Lake Rosso. And so we consider ourselves a Christian youth development organization. And we run summer camp in the summertime, and we're open all year round. We host school groups and other groups in our leadership studio, as well as church retreats. And so we do have like about 25,000 kids that go through Muskoka Woods over the course of the year. So we are more than just running a residential summer camp. We actually are open all year round and have a lot going on. Our vision statement is inspiring youth to shape their world. And I think that what I love about that is that kids come to Muskoka Woods, they experience something different than maybe what they experience at school or at home or in other communities. And they grow in confidence because of their experience at camp, being away from parents, being away from other friends and influences. They get to make new friends, they try new things. And just that experience in itself, even outside of faith, is, I think, really important for kids.
Sure.
Yeah. I think even in psychology, it talks about that we go from dependence to independence to interdependence. And if we don't healthily actually strive for independence, we actually can never get to interdependence.
Right.
Because we always feel like we're dependent, and we're kind of like struggling with that. So I just think camp, as a guest and as a staff member, is like this great place to help young people experience independence, so that they can get to the place where they know that actually it's healthier to be interdependent. And my parents maybe actually have something interesting to say.
Yes. Well, it's funny because a lot of kids are like, I could not possibly go away for a week. And then the parents are like, I can't possibly let my child go for a week. And it's interesting because I'm not sure if it's more this way now than it was maybe back when you were 12 to kind of say 16. But I think parents are fearful of letting their kids do things, and therefore it puts fear in their kids that they can't go and do it. But I've seen with my own kids and my friends' kids that have sent to Muskoka Woods, it was hard, but you have to do hard things. And if you don't do the hard things, you're never going to grow. You're never going to learn. You're never going to change. And I just think that you got to kick them out the door sometimes, and you got to put them in a program that they say, no. And you're like, actually, I'm your mom, I'm your dad, or whatever. I know that's best. And it's a leap of faith. But I've seen that with your kids, which is also an interesting perspective because you work there. And so your kids have automatically had the opportunity to walk down to be camper and to be in the leadership program, the CEO or crew, and then actually being on staff. So I love what you're saying. It's a great reminder for parents. So if you're watching out there and you're struggling, I think about it and pray about it, because it is worth it, whether you're going to Muskoka Woods or not, but getting your kids out there so that they can do the hard things, get out of their comfort zone, get out of the city and try something different. And
I actually sent my kids to a different camp as well. So because I believe in that experience so much, that they needed to have that experience outside of being a staff kid, right? Because here at camp, we would always still be around to save them in whatever way, like even maybe the staff would treat them a little bit differently, or they would feel like they have a little more privilege. So I made sure that my kids actually went away to camp so that they experienced independence and, like something outside of being at Muskoka Woods as well. So
smart, so wise. Love it. Yeah. So maybe talk a little bit about your journey with your different roles over the years that brought you to your role specifically today.
Oh man, I've had lots. So many, Sandy. I'm like,
okay, well, let's start. We can even start with water ski stuff, right?
Well, actually, I'm going to start with being a dishwasher. So
good.
My first summer, I washed dishes. I was 17 years old, and I sweated out in that kitchen all summer. And I had heat rash like everywhere because it was so hot. And it was itchy, and but so many things that summer, like number one, just doing a job in service, I think was super important. You didn't have to be a counselor or an instructor. You didn't have to be in leadership, but really learning and working hard, and knowing that serving in background, roles is really important to, connect into and to understand, like the role and how important that is to customer experience and, like to the guests. Number two, I had so much fun. I made so many friends. Like we had to, outside of our actual job, go out and make sure that we were doing other fun things, like going swimming, going skiing, and having campfires and that you don't just go back to your cabin and sit there. Because I can tell you, I've coached kids at camp that's what they do. They go work and then they go back to the cabin and get on their phone. And I'm like, stop
They're
that.
missing out on the opportunity.
Yeah. You need to, if you're just here to come and do dishes and go back to your cabin, no, you're not gonna have a good time.
No, you're not. You're gonna quit. You're not gonna follow through. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think thirdly, it was the first, I think, major time where someone saw leadership skills in me, and I became the head dishwasher after the first 2 weeks. Very proud to say.
Yes, you should. I love it.
But, honestly, that experience in having someone see in me that I could see and structure things to make things more effective and efficient and fair for a team. People would be like, I always want to be on the clean end. I always want to be on the dirty end. So I'm like, how about we make up a schedule and we all have to take a turn on these things. And then even leading my peers and being in that kind of role was just very significant in so many ways. So
that's a foundation for you, right?
Yeah. And even being strong in amongst your peers, right?
Yeah.
To make decisions that are right. I really think that experience, helped me even going back into high school and being able to influence, which is all when I think about our vision statement of inspiring youth to shape their world. We specifically say there because yes, we want young people to go and shape the world, but we kind of break it down in that you can influence the world around you. And so the experience at Muskoka Woods, how does that flow into your experience at home to be able to make good choices and for you to influence as opposed to your surroundings to influence you?
I love that differentiation. That's important. It's really important.
Yeah. So I honestly really think that summer was significant in that. Then, I was a counselor for little kids, which was really fun and just came across so many, like little 7 and 8 year olds that had great lives and some that didn't, and just really needed care. And I think sometimes, because Muskoka Woods in the summertime serves a little bit more of an affluent crowd, that we forget that these kids think they have everything, but we know that they don't. That really what they're searching for is Jesus in amongst it all. And so I think that summer as a counselor was super significant
I can see that for sure.
as well. I don't know. I could go on and on, Sandy, for all my different roles.
Okay, so maybe one thing we could focus on too is thinking of people that go on staff like you. And then it's different than being a guest because there's a little bit more of an opportunity for going to Cadence every week, which is, you can talk about maybe what that is, the opportunity for mentoring, a little bit more of a spiritual development happening. And so what I see with Muskoka Woods is that it's an exposure to a loving God that they may not have ever heard of before. And it's just how it's brought about. It's just brought about in a very natural, relational way. And I think that's really neat. But when you're a staff member, it's a little bit different. There's a little bit more to it now. So what would it be like for somebody who might go on staff this summer? What would they look to experience?
So, our vision statement of inspiring youth to shape their world, and then we have a calling statement that we do that by being a living exhibition of life with God. Mm-hmm. And so we have a ministry to our full-time staff. We have ministry and care for our seasonal staff. And our hope is the overflow of that is what then, like affects our guests and their experience, and that they will see us living our lives with Jesus. And we kind of invite them to come along and hang out with us. And that experience then really creates a, a experience again that they haven't had outside of Muskoka Woods.
Yeah,
so
I see that.
Yeah, so it's super important for us to grow as Christians, as full-time staff. So even as full-time staff, we have like weekly meetings that we have, like we do devotionals in, we pray in our meetings, we read books together. As an organization, we pour into our full-time staff. And then we hire full-time staff that also care about young people and about mentoring young people, right? And so then we have a whole ministry for the young people that come and work, and not only in the summer, but also year round. Like we hire 50 to 75 kids year round, and then we hire about 365 in the summertime. Amazing. And so as a staff member, our hope is that they will also feel welcomed into a space where a safe space for them to explore what they believe.
Right.
And so there's all the things that we do. So we have like a cadence, which is like a church service. We host like worship services, which we call Soul House. Everyone is in a small group, which we think is really important to kind of bring it down into a smaller group of people to chat with.
Perfect. So what would be kind of one of the final things that you feel are really great for the staff?
Well, the last thing we do is we also set all of our staff up in a one-to-one mentoring relationship, either with a full-time staff or someone that's on leadership or another senior staff member, in order to make sure that nobody falls through the cracks, that everyone feels like they have someone, even outside of their supervisor, to connect in with, that they know that they can talk to, that they can pray with, that they can ask questions, whatever it is, or even if it's, let's just go get ice cream. Yeah. But, because we really do want our staff to experience a safe place for them to grow and for them to explore and for them to realize they have skills and abilities that God has given them. They can then contribute ultimately to the body of Christ, because we know that that is where we are going to really gain, like our value. Obviously that Jesus loves us, and that we then offer those things to others to show Jesus' love. Yeah. And so ultimately, that's kind of our whole goal, which again then overflows into the guest lives, and that we hope that through that then they will leave inspired to just be and do something different maybe than when they came. And hopefully that's with Jesus too.
Mm-hmm. I can speak from personal experience. Even when I was there back in 90, one of the things that I took away that I carry with me today is the whole concept of mentoring. And that's one of my favorite parts about Muskoka Woods, is that you don't go there and you're not left alone. You're covered with relationships and all different angles, which doesn't typically happen in a high school or a university. So this is like such a unique place for kids to grow spiritually, emotionally, mentally, and yes, physically too, and socially. So for me, having somebody kind of just really simply walk alongside of me, literally walking at camp and talking to me, asking me questions about me, my little 18-year-old self, and what does that mean and what does that look like, and how can I take that and then translate that into my life. And that's what I feel like God's been doing in my life, is just translating it into being a mom and working with other younger women and different things. And I really think that Muskoka Woods has such a great opportunity to have this foundation for youth to literally change their world. And I can see it personally in my own family. My second born, he's going back this summer in a leadership kind of position, and so is his girlfriend. And it's something that was built inside of him that he just couldn't ignore. And I think that that's not the case for everybody, but I think it's really unique how God has done that. So, and he continues to do that through so many different people. Yeah.
Yeah.
And in your
Yeah.
family too, and all the people that come internationally as well. Like there's so many things we could talk about, but God has just used Muskoka Woods as this beacon of light that has drawn people in to give them an experience that literally changes their life.
Yeah. Yeah. And thank you, Lord, for using Muskoka
Yeah.
Woods to do that.
Yeah.
And it's really cool because the first woman to live on property here, like back in the, I don't even know, 1800s or something. But her name was Mrs. Larson, and it's actually the bay is named after that family. And her husband passed away, and she was kind of left to kind of fend for herself. But she specifically prayed, like we have this little write-up, historical write-up, that she specifically prayed that this property and this place would be a great missionary enterprise. And so we just, it just honestly, it's like gives me tingles.
Chills. Yeah.
Back then, you know, like someone praying for specific for this property. And yes, it's about the people that are there that are making it work, but ultimately it's about God using the people that are there and just continuing, you know, like to serve our guests. And one day I'll be gone and other people, you know, like will come up, and that's fully our prayer from Muskoka Woods too, that we talk about that there would be an unbroken chain of apprentices at Muskoka Woods that are just learning and growing and continually giving and mentoring others. So
yeah, it really is a gift. It really is. So considering that someone's watching this maybe for the first time, what could you say to them today to encourage them to take that leap of faith, to say, you know what, I'm gonna look this camp up, I'm gonna give it a try, or I'm gonna encourage my child to work there, my teen? What could you say maybe to that parent, or even to somebody who's a younger person who might be watching this as well? Why would I do this?
Yep. Well, 100%, if you have young kids, I think that you should send kids to camp. I think that it is so important for young people to get outside of their parents, like I talked about before, experience some independence. It's critical in people's growth. And I think camp is such a safe place to do that. Now, is camp perfect? No. Could things happen? Sure. But there are all the staff are there for your kids, and everything is structured and everything is safe. And we know safety is number one. And then knowing that is there, that then we instill, you know, the fun and the growth and the friendship and the faith. So safety number one, everything else really comes second. And so yeah, and obviously I'm partial to Muskoka Woods, but I also know that there's tons of great camps out there. And so sending, you know, your kids to camp, I think is, truly life-changing for young people. I think for staff, it is a little bit of a different thing, you know, when you get to the age where you can work at camp. I think probably a lot of people's hesitation is how much money you make at camp. Because to be honest, you don't make a whole lot of money at camp. But I really believe that you can make money other ways. You can get a part-time job. You can apply for scholarships. You can, you know, like do other things. It may be more work to do that, which isn't always bad, right? To do more work. And to be able to, though, experience a summer, again, where you can meet new friends, grow in independence, learn more about who you are and your skills and abilities and how that can contribute to the team, and also to be, you know, a leader. And we talk about that Muskoka Woods, that a leader is someone that looks at their world and says, it doesn't have to be like that, and they do something about it. And so that everybody can be a leader. And so at Muskoka Woods, that's our hope for our staff. And again, not only in the summer, but year round as well. So if you have teenagers that are looking for a gap year, or even just a semester, you know, we hire people in the fall, in the winter, in the spring. And that's a smaller community than in the summertime, but all the things are there to just create a safe place for kids to explore who they are and what they believe, and to leave more confident than when they came.
So important. In fact, I'm glad you said that whole concept of the gap year, because I know that you guys at Muskoka Woods has a podcast, so I'm going to link everything below to the podcast, to the site, and to everything. But I haven't listened to it yet. I started, but Chris was doing a podcast on the whole concept of a gap year. And so I'm really excited to listen to that podcast, because I've thought about it for many years, even for our kids. Like, what a great opportunity just before you leap into some sort of academic environment, take a bit of a break. So I think that's a really great idea for somebody out there looking for something for their 18-year-old or 19-year-old to do for a year. So great opportunity. Yeah. Well, I am so thrilled we had this conversation, and I know that you and I both have a very special interest in Muskoka Woods with our kids and our husbands, and it's just such an incredible full circle moment, even just to be here today, to be able to talk about it and highlight Muskoka Woods. So thank you for the work you're doing. Thank you for your ministry and for what you and Scott do, and for everybody and all the leadership there. We are very grateful. So thank you for joining me today, and I can't wait to have another conversation. Maybe we'll look back at the end of the summer and we can do a reflection on summer 2024 at Muskoka Woods. So yeah, but thank you for being here today.
Thank you, Sandy, for having me.
Well, it was a pleasure, and I can't wait to do it again. We will talk very soon.
All right. See you later.